Welcome to today's Meet the Funder session, where you'll learn more all about Sport England's current open funds. The session will be delivered by Becky Evans from Sport England. Over to you, Becky.
Okay, good morning all. Hope you're well. Thanks for joining us today. Um, as Hayley explained, my name's Becky. I'm one of the investment advisors based at Sport England. My day-to-day job involves answering calls and emails, talking to organisations such as sports clubs, charities, businesses about what funding might be available through Sport England. So in today's session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through our current open funding programs, a little bit information about Sport England. We have got, so we've only got two open programs at the moment. I'm going to go through our small grants program first. It might be at the end of that part, it would probably be good to take any questions we might have about the small grants program at that stage. And then I will go through our Active Together crowdfunded program also. So if you did have any burning questions that come to mind as I'm presenting, please pop it in the chat and we'll see if we can answer them either at the end of the small grant section or towards the end of the presentation. I'll also put my contact details at the end as well, so that any questions you might have following the event, you'll have the details of how to contact Sport England as well. Okay, so what I'm going to cover, really quickly go through who we are. I'm going to speak about our small grants program. We're also going to speak about our Active Together, which is a crowdfunder, and then go through any other areas of support that some of you might not be aware of. So basically, Sport England is an arm's length body of government. We distribute national lottery funding and exchequer funding, and our whole premise is to improve access to grassroots sports and physical activities, so that as many people as possible in England can access sport and physical activity and experience the benefits that can bring. We distribute close to £300 million a year to support the development of community-based sport and physical activity. And we also use advocacy, insight, and investments above to enhance the benefits of sport and physical activity, to just basically removing as many barriers as possible so that everybody has equal access to sport and physical activity. We work in collaboration with a range of partners in order to do this. This can range from sports clubs, charities, national governing bodies, or national organisations. We've got two current funding programs. We've got our small grants program, and we've got our Active Together program, which is a crowdfunder program. Our grants are forever changing, so I'm just going to go through what we've got open at the moment. But it's always worth signing up to our newsletter, checking back in with us when you've got a project in mind, so that we can give you the advice on what's available from us or other organisations at the time of you looking and planning your project. So our small grants program is our opportunity to resource the local community organisations to help us deliver on our strategy, uniting the movement. It's national lottery funding between 300 and 15,000 for a 12-month project. So not-for-profit organisations can apply. The whole priority of the small grants program is to invest in those that need it most. So we do have priorities with our funding. We are looking to support projects that are challenging in activity and inequalities at the same time. excuse me, I've got winter bugs going around in a house, so I'm struggling with a cough at the moment, so apologies if I start coughing. Um, so with I mentioned our priorities. So what we're looking to really invest in and those projects that we're really keen to support are organisations that are working with people in areas of disadvantage. And how we class that is by using the indices of multiple deprivation. So the whole of the country is split into indices of multiple deprivation, and we would like to focus our funding on areas of deprivation, so people that are projects that are taking place in indices of multiple deprivation areas 1 to 3. We shorten that to IMD. So those projects that are taking place in IMD 1 to 3, we really want to prioritize our investment into those. Um, we if your project is taking place outside of those areas, it doesn't mean that we wouldn't fund it. It just means that we're where there's not enough funding to go around for the projects, and it is quite a competitive program, we will prioritize funding those projects that are taking place in areas IMD 1 to 3. Um, if your project is taken outside of those areas, you can still apply. um, it doesn't mean it stops you applying. It's just where there's not enough funding to go around, we will focus it. I will share the slides afterwards. We've got a postcode checker that you can check where your project's happening. It's also worth bearing in mind, if your project isn't taking place in IMD 1 to 3, however, the people that are accessing your project potentially live within those areas. This can also, you should include that sort of information in your application. We're also keen to support projects that are focused on tackling inequalities. So focusing on our priority groups, which are um, gender. So we understand that some community groups have, there's still not equal access to sport and physical activity. So those groups that could stand the most from participating in sport and physical activity, they're still face a lot more barriers than other groups. So these are our priority groups as listed. There's more information on our United in the Movement strategy if you'd like more information. But so we're keen to support projects that are focused on women and girls, young adults 16 to 34, older adults 75 plus, um, people from lower socioeconomic groups, projects that are encouraging more diverse communities to take part, ethnicity, disability, and long term health conditions, and any groups that are facing prejudice and discrimination. This can include the LGBTQ plus communities as well. So, projects, just to recap quickly, projects that are based in IMD 1 to 3 and projects that are working with our priority groups are where we're focusing our investment. However, if your project is more general and it's not focused on that, you can still apply. It's just it is a competitive program. Who can apply? So, in order to be eligible to apply, you need to be a not-for-profit organisation. So, this is like a sports club, a community amateur sports club, CASC, community interest company, or a charity. If it's a community interest company, just bear in mind to be eligible for most lottery funding, you need to have at least 3 officers on your board, not living together, who aren't living together or not related, and they all have equal share of the voting rights. So that's just worth bearing in mind if you are looking to apply from a community interest company. Here are some of the things that we can support for your project. Bear in mind, this is an exhaustive list. This is just an examples of what potentially we could fund. So coaching costs, so paying for somebody to deliver the sessions, volunteer training, so if there's any coach education requirements that's needed, equipment, facility hire. We can also support minor facility alterations as long as the relevant permissions have put in place, so planning permission, whether it's being built within building regs. and that the landlord has also give permission as well. And how we'd evidence that is by looking at leases as well. Now, it's not the small grants program is very much a revenue project, and what I might mean by that, not a capital project. And what I mean by that is that it's more about the delivery than building work. So, for example, if you were a rugby club and there was a need to develop your women and girls section, however, the toilet facilities or the changing facilities weren't up to scratch, and there was a minor facility alteration that would help support the project, then that might be eligible. Or if you're looking to increase accessibility at your clubhouse, so you're looking to put on some disability sessions, but the access to your clubhouse and the facilities in there is not accessible to somebody who might have a disability, then that is where this would come into place. It wouldn't, so it's up to 15,000, but we wouldn't just drop 15,000 into a larger capital project either. This is not the fund for that. So it's worth bearing in mind if you have a more capital based project, that the small grants may not be the one for you for that one. But I mean, basically anything. So it might be contributing to transport costs, facility hire, purchasing equipment, and promotion. Anything that's going to help you put on this project that's going to increase accessibility to sport and physical activity for those that aren't currently active. Then that there's potential for the small grants to cover it. So unfortunately, we can't. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, we can't cover everything. So we won't cover things that don't meet the program aims and objectives. The general running costs of an organisation. So if you already have utility bills, staff costs, then the small grants program won't contribute to that cost. However, if, for example, you already have a member of staff that works for you on a Monday, in order to deliver a project, they need to work for 2 hours on a Tuesday, then the small grants program could potentially cover those 2 hours. But when it came to reporting, we'd need to see that uplift in wages. So we'd need to see that, say they were paid £100 in March, the project started in April, and they were paid 150. And we just need to see that uplift in wages. It needs to be an additional cost. It won't just be covering a running cost of an organisation. We won't fund for bid writers or projects that aren't ready to begin within 6 weeks. We do have some flexibility around that, but we are keen to support projects that are ready to get going almost from the get-go. With that in mind, what I would say is if you have a project in mind, I would look to apply 16 weeks in advance, just so that we have there's time to allow for any delays there might be in the assessing process, and also getting information back to us if you're successful. So we do advise around 16 weeks between now and when your project starts to apply. Cost benefiting an individual. So we're not able to fund things like membership fees to gyms or for personal equipment that people keep. If equipment is a barrier to access a sport, then we can discuss ways around that. But we wouldn't purchase equipment that people take home after the project and keep. Projects targeting under fives. We won't fund anything that's for projects that are solely targeting under 5-year-olds. However, if it was a more family-based activity that will also include under fives, then that is okay. Activities where there's a statutory responsibility to deliver. So this can be like curriculum time. We won't fund projects that take place in curriculum time. However, activities that take place outside of school hours is fine. We only fund projects that benefit people living in England. Costs that aren't direct responsibility of the applicant to recover. Projects delivering a high risk sport. So on our website, There is a list of national governing bodies that we recognise. Through our funding programmes, we only tend to support projects that um, where that we have a national governing body that we recognise. On that list, we have a number of sports that we class as high risk. These are like your boxing, your climbing, your paddle sports. Um, where we denote a sport as being high risk, if you're looking to deliver that sport as part of your project, we would expect the people delivering it. So this might not necessarily be the organization. This could be the organization you're using to deliver. We would expect the organisation delivering to be affiliated to the relevant national governing body. This is to make sure that there's all the risk assessments, all the insurances, and all the relevant qualifications, so that the delivery is as safe as possible. We won't fund predominantly football projects. I have got another slide just to explain this a little bit further. We fund the Football Foundation directly to invest into football projects, especially the more capital-based projects. We will fund a football project through the small grants program, but there needs to be in another agenda. So we won't fund projects that are developing more competitive football opportunities. So it's, for example, starting up a new under-8 team to access a league. That's not something we would fund, but we would fund projects that are tackling inequalities or providing community benefits, where football is the tool to achieve that. So this can be, for example, your more non-traditional forms of football. So your walking footballs, your pan disability football. And so for example, if an organisation was working with a youth group, and that youth group is currently inactive, but they've chose football as a way of them becoming active. And this is more like recreational football kick arounds, not really developing into a league more competitive football, then this is something that we could fund. So I hope that one makes sense. Right, so that's kind of our small grants program in a nutshell. I'll just check if I've got brilliant. At this point, is there anyone that wanted to come in and ask a question? I'm going to move quickly on to our active together otherwise, or if there's anyone that wants to park any questions in the chat function, they can do. Cue awkward silence until somebody wants to ask a question. Nope. Okay. I will move on. If any burning questions come to you, pop it in the chat and we can answer afterwards. The active together part's not going to take much, so actually we might not need the full hour. I just allowed the hour just in case anybody did have any burning questions that we wanted to discuss. Okay, so excuse me. So in addition to our small grants program, we have our Active Together crowdfunder. So this is a crowdfunder program. So what you would need to do as an organization is you would need to create a crowdfunder campaign. This would involve a video of your project, of the club, your project, people who access the club, what's currently club activities, and then a bit of information about the project and how it will benefit your club. Now, these projects can be anything that the club hasn't been able to do due to COVID or the cost of living crisis. These can include your larger capital projects, anything that the small grants won't cover. So this is anything that the club's keen to achieve. You would need to have a list of rewards. So this could be something that the club or community organisation can contribute. It could be stuff like one-to-one coaching, tickets for a barbecue, tickets for an event that's happening, opportunities to sponsor the club. Maybe that you're doing a raffle via the crowdfunder. we've had really rare rewards, anything ranging from cakes to potentially members that have holiday cottages and stuff that people can access at a reduced price. Rewards from the community, so it could be vouchers from local businesses, local shops, local restaurants, anything like that, so that people can purchase via the crowdfunder, and that purchase counts as a pledge. Also, there's the opportunity just for people to pledge towards your project as well. We can then provide match funding or a pledge between 30 and 50% of your target, up to a maximum of £10,000. So we would only pledge a maximum of £10,000 towards the project. So you stand to get our pledge as well as whatever you can raise from the community as well. This, and also on the crowdfunder platform, there are other funders, such as British Airways, Marks and Spencers. There might be national governing bodies of the sports as well that are prepared to pledge via the crowdfunder. We're having that crowdfunder platform as well. Local councils or parish councils can pledge towards it, and local businesses as well. Again, same premises in terms of the people that can apply. So it needs to be not-for-profit organisations, so your clubs, your charities, your community interest companies that can run these crowdfunders. It's not the same as applying for funding, but we are finding a lot of clubs and organisations are running really successful crowdfunders, and as well as the funding, they're receiving other benefits. It's raising the issues that clubs might have with the membership base and the wider community. So the Active Together can contribute towards running costs. So it might be facility hire that the clubs are, because I know we are aware that facility higher costs have increased massively since the pandemic and as a result of the cost of living crisis. So this can be facility hire, equipment costs that you might need to cover. And we find that it's raised the profile of the clubs in the community. It raised the profile of any issues the clubs or challenges the clubs are facing with their membership base and wider community. It also provides massive evidence that the clubs supported. So we've had a number of campaigns that have run a crowdfunded campaign that has been successful, and then they've managed to use that evidence base to support bids for larger funding pots. So, for example, Hereford Athletics Track, they ran a crowdfunder campaign, and they also managed to use that evidence then to lever in funding from the council, from the government through the community ownership fund as well. And evidence from the crowdfunder was able to be used to say, actually, it's a well supported project, and we have this number of people that were prepared to pledge or engage with our campaign. We know it's not our traditional way of supporting clubs and organisations. So there is a lot of support. So we have our investment advisor team who are always on hand to give advice about any funding projects that you might have, or any generic sports inquiries you might have. Through the crowdfunder program, we also have one-to-one support for crowdfunder. There are monthly webinars that you can attend. There's lots of guides and information. We've also got previous webinars up on the YouTube page that you can watch as well if you can't attend one live. On those webinars, we talk through the process of crowdfunding, but we also have a club or organisation that has crowdfunded previously that can share their experience and answer any questions you might have. In terms of the match funding available, we also use the areas of multiple deprivation to provides the match funding. So, for example, if your club organisation or project is taking place in an area of deprivation, so IMD 1 to 3, then we would fund up to 50% of your project, up to £10,000. If it's a more affluent area, so we say a more affluent area is IMD 7 to 10, then we would provide match funding of 30%. This can change if you're providing activities for children and young people, so this can increase slightly. If you're providing activity for people with disability or long-term health conditions, then again, this will increase. So any priority group that you might be working with, we can increase the pledge slightly. Yeah, so that's kind of our active together. Those are our two. So we've at the moment in terms of funding or open funds programs, we've got our small grants and our active together crowdfunder. Things are forever changing. So like I said, I mentioned at the start, if you have a project in mind and you don't feel it's covered by our small grants or active together, get in touch and we can see, we can advise as to what might be available outside of Sport England, or any other resources that we might be able to support with. It's worth signing up to our newsletter, and you do that by going onto our website and scrolling down to the bottom of any page and entering your email. We will let you know then if there are any new funding programs that will open. So we also provide, we are more than a funder. So excuse me, we do, like we said, we work with our partners to support the sporting sector and community sector to work with people to access better sports and physical activity programs. Non-funding support, so other support that you might not be aware that we can provide. So we run our Club Matters website, which is Sport England Club Matters. On there is anything that so much information. So this can be from health and safety, risk assessments, safeguarding, there's training, there's information about legal structures, there's information about funding and how to go about applying for funding. Facility management. There's a lot on there. So, where your national governing body might be go to for your club and resources, if they haven't got that information, check the Club Matters as well, because they might have that information that might be useful to you. We've also got design guidance. So if you're looking to take on a capital project, we have a lot of design guidance on there that can inform the process and provide a bit more technical guidance as well. We run a number of campaigns, and through our campaigns, we have a lot of resources as well. So through our campaigns, we share research, insight on particular topics. There are resources if you sign up as a supporter that you can access, from like posters to regular email updates. So our current campaigns are We Are Undefeatable, and that is supporting people with long-term health conditions to become more active and high, and it shows great understanding of the barriers to people experience long-term health conditions, and how those can be removed to hopefully help more people to become active. This Can is probably our biggest campaign at the moment, and this is focused on the barriers that women and girls face to taking part in sport, and it highlights them through social media or within the media. Has resources on there and research as well. Join the Movement is something I believe started in COVID times. So different ways of encouraging people to become active. And then our most recent campaign is Play Their Way, which is looking to provide a more child first or child centered approach to sports coaching. And this is to help with making sure that every young person has a positive experience of sport and physical activity at a young age, so that they're more likely to continue lifelong participation. So encouraging a more child first approach to coaching. what I can do is I'll speak to Haley, but I can share this PowerPoint afterwards. There's all the links on there, so as you go through, you can click in it. It'll take us through to the relevant links there. So this is our contact details. We have our funding helpline. So there's 6 investment advisors. They're all really, we're a proper helpful bunch. So if you wanted to phone about any funding inquiry, any sport inquiry, and you're not sure where to start, give us a call and hopefully we can direct and help. Our funding advice line is open 8 till 5 each Monday to Friday. If it's easier for you to email, you can email funding@sportengland.org. Um, we're really quick at getting back to people, so we will address it quite quickly. So if a burning questions comes to you and it's outside of those hours of our phone line 8 till 5, drop us an email, and we will get back to you. um, Otherwise, it's also worth having a look on our website because there's a lot of information on there that you might not realise. And that's it really. So I think we've got a few messages, but if there's anyone that does want to ask a question at this point, please. Oh, brilliant. Thank you, Ruth. Amazing question. I didn't cover that, did I? The Small Grants Programme is a rolling programme. So it's open up until the 31st of March when we would have something else to replace it. So you could apply today, and at the moment it's taking between 3 to 4 weeks to get a decision. Which we had a massive backlog over the summer, so it was taking a lot longer. We've managed to get that down, so it's 3 to 4 weeks. Up and so you can apply anytime between now and the 31st of March, and we will get an answer to you by within 3 to 4 weeks. So what's worth saying at this point is that it is a competitive program. Therefore, if you do not get funded, we haven't got the capacity to give everybody feedback as we if they're unsuccessful. However, if you require feedback, get in touch and we will give you that feedback. Take the feedback and apply again. You don't need to wait a period of time. So obviously check out the criteria, apply. If you're unsuccessful, come back to us, get the feedback and apply again. Thanks, Ruth. Become United would be able to contact you after the school. Absolutely. Yeah. It's probably, sorry, Become United. I'm not sure who this is, but it's probably worth, you can either drop us a call or email us, but I will email a follow-up email to Haley, which she can send out, which will have my contact details on it as well. So you can get in touch with us. Absolutely, you can. We will send a slide. Julie, did you have a question?
Oh, yes, Becky, have I unmuted myself there? Yeah.
You are on mute.
Just in terms of the postcode checker, is that available now on your website? And
It is, yes.
what happens
I
if
ha
a group doesn't
Go on.
necessarily have a base, for example, a running group or a walking group, or a group like that who take their group to places to do activities? How does it work in that scenario?
Yeah, brilliant question. So we do have these things. So it might be where they meet. It might be where the run's taking place. Um, the reason we have that IMD is that IMD thing is that we want to ensure like we say, we want to invest in those areas that need it most. Um, so we want to make sure that the people accessing that provision are from those areas. So we would be checking kind of the premises that you might be using. So for example, a running club, that might be where you regularly meet. So if you meet at a leisure centre or a community centre that's based in those IMDs, that's where we would check. If an event was, you can also, so for example, you might have a project that's taking place in multiple locations. Within the application form, there's an opportunity to put those different locations in. Does that answer your question, Julia?
Yeah, thanks. And just one other question is,
Yeah.
a copy of the application form on your website. So I'm assuming it's an online application form, but can you see the questions before you open an actual application?
No, but I will update. I'm going to update this PowerPoint before I send it over with that information. So I'm trying to think if I got it here. I think I've got it noted down here. It's a really simple application. So we will need information about budget. We will want to know about the organisation, and we basically want to know what the project is, why now, what's motivating you to do it now, who's the target group, um, what and how have you thought about them when designing the project. So what are the barriers? How are you addressing them? How are you going to make sure that the target group comes to your sessions? But um I will update the PowerPoint so that it's got a bit more information, Julie, before I send it. Just checking if I can see, because I wrote some notes on this the other day. Because obviously, so basically we'll need like project name, project outline, what's the motivation to make the project happen, what do you want to achieve by making the project happen? So there's 3 questions. How will you make it happen? So it's really simple. So how it's written, the Small Grants Program is a really simple application. And how it's written is because we understand that the people that are writing these bids are volunteers. They're already working their 9 to 5. They're doing all the hours outside of work to support their sports club, voluntary organisation. So it's a proper simple application, and it's um, designed so that anybody can answer the questions. Doesn't need to be somebody who's used to writing funding applications. It's your everyday person. Are there any other questions? Just check the chat function. Nope. Okay, so that kind of brings to the close the presentation. I will I'll get in touch with Hayley, who will send through with a follow-up email that can be sent round to everybody with a copy of the slides. Where I think it's been useful, I've linked on the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to press that link and go through to the relevant web page as well. Like I said, any questions after this event, get in touch with us on the funding helpline or into the funding inbox, and we're more than happy to help.
Thanks, Becky. Thank you, everybody, for joining. But thank you. It was a really detailed and informative presentation as well. I'll make sure that follow-up email sent to everybody that's attended.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks for
everyone.
joining, everybody. Bye.